Another jam-packed day here at London Disrupt. I'm here with Eileen Burbidge. She's a partner at Passion Capital, and she also works with the British Prime Minister and London Mayor Boris Johnson. So thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
So I'm curious about all these government initiatives here. What are you doing with the UK government for tech?
What are we up to? Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting because I've been here in London now for 11 years. And there's just been such a dramatic uprising of tech and digital as an ecosystem here. I mean, it's so significant that, as you're pointing out, the government has taken attention or started to pay attention, which I think is fantastic. So yes, London Mayor Boris Johnson, he really gets it. He understands, particularly for fintech and like financial services and how much London relies on that sector, what a growing sort of economy this represents for him. And then more broadly, for all of the UK, sort of Britain generally, across the whole country, both the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's basically like the CFO of the country, they both really recognize what tech is doing as well. And so 5 years ago, actually, it was the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London who launched Tech City, which a lot of people with a bit of cynicism thought was just a sort of a PR thing 5 years ago and just labeling a certain part of East London as this kind of up-and-coming area. But really over the last 5 years, it has taken hold. It's sort of represented and catalyzed what a lot of like entrepreneurs, founders, and teams are doing. And in that time, for instance, we've seen 10 times as much venture financing coming into London than we did 5 years ago. So it's increased tenfold. And so a couple of things I do. So the first thing is, the British government has Tech City, which is that organization I just mentioned. I'm the chair of it now. I just took that role in September. And then secondarily, the Chancellor or the Treasury appointed a special envoy for fintech in July or August, and they asked me to do that. So I kind of fly the flag and talk about how strong fintech is for all of the country, not just London, because we also have hubs up in the north and in the Midlands as well. And then I do work with the London Mayor as one of his tech ambassadors. So when he makes trade visits, like for instance, we recently went to Israel and Palestine. I've also traveled with him to Singapore, Jakarta, and Malaysia. And before, where historically a lot of the conversations he's having is with international investors or people abroad to invest in like property or developing London in the infrastructure side, he recognized that actually a lot of them want to talk about our tech sector as well. So I go and I do the sort of tech talk too.
And so are there any specific initiatives that help encourage entrepreneurs here? It sounds like you're involved with Tech City. Is there anything that they've found works in getting more people motivated to get their startup running?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've figured out a formula or a playbook, but I think to your point, there's a lot of things where we realize the government can help make a difference or help shine a spotlight and do things to encourage more people to come and join startups, work at startups, or found startups. And I think this whole spotlight and showing case studies of great entrepreneurs is really what this ecosystem needs more than anything else, because we're a younger ecosystem. It's just been a few years versus what you've had in the Valley, for example, over decades. And so really just over the last few years, people are looking at success stories, whether it's Skype from like 10 years ago, or it's Spotify with their London headquarters, or King.com, or Just Eat. These companies are really thriving, and people are like, hey, actually, they built a startup, they grew it here in London or in Britain, they've listed it, they've gone public, they've made, multi-billion-dollar valuations, and so maybe I should do the same thing too, or at least it legitimizes it also from a recruiting standpoint, so to hire people. Because when I first moved here 11 years ago, or even as few as sort of 5-6 years ago, it was really hard to attract people and to hire developers out of like the big banks or the big consultancy companies. And so I think all of that is changing. So the government's focus, I think, helps to legitimize and also just bring more attention to the sector, which is brilliant. Then they also do fund programs. I mean, there are actually programs to help with skills development or retraining of maybe people who have gone into a different line of work or might be in finance but want to think about working in startups. There's also visa sponsorship, for example, or support for trying to bring talent into the country to help growing teams.
There's a lot of chat about that in the US as well with the H-1B visas. So,
exactly,
yeah.
And I think actually in the US there's a page being taken out of the UK playbook, which is to do an entrepreneur visa. And we've had an entrepreneur visa here for years, which is, I think, fantastic. I think what's happening though overall now, there's a lot more concern about mass immigration and things like that. So I'm a bit worried, but also hoping that we don't do anything to thwart what we're doing to attract highly skilled talent. But it's been an absolute advantage, and it's been like a benefit for the UK over the US, but also other hubs around the world. So it's really made a difference. And then in specific sectors, the government has actually introduced like policy change, like legislative changes to help certain sectors. So peer-to-peer lending or equity crowdfunding. We had that here in the UK a full year, if not more, than the US just recently rolled it out. And I think there's been a lot of places where the government has said, okay, let's take a look, even like sharing economy, it's changed things like tax treatment so people can rent out rooms on Airbnb, and it's really been very progressive in trying to encourage people to not only start companies and participate in the economy itself, but to be consumers of it too, and to create a really big market here for digital.
And how are the IPO markets here? Are there a lot of venture-backed IPOs going public in London right now, and how are they doing?
They're doing actually really well, and I think that is something that if we had this conversation a year, 2 years ago, we'd be talking about how difficult it is to go public. We don't have an exit market here, and even if we had early stage capital, which people would have complained about, but even if we had more early stage capital, we don't have the end of the pipeline. And I think actually now this year it's really been a turnaround. For instance, we've had 2 listings just in the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks. One was Sophos, which is in cybersecurity, went out in the same week as another company in the US went out on the New York Stock Exchange. Sophos is doing really well. It's trading up. It's going positively. The one in the US has actually had a fall.
Yeah, a lot of the US IPOs have struggled this year.
Yeah, like First Data, for example, listed. It was a huge. Did you cover it?
Yeah, I did.
Hugely anticipated,
before the stock
and then it's gone down. In that same week, we had WorldPay, which is also fintech, list here on the London Stock Exchange. It was the biggest listing in London all year. Happens to come from the tech sector, and it's done well. It's continued to perform above its listing price. So when you compare and contrast the two, I actually think now maybe the listing market here or the IPO market here in London might be stronger. It just might be a better bet in the US because the expectations are different, and I think the inflation didn't happen in terms of the valuation before you actually went public, which is what I think is affecting the IPOs in the States.
And how are the valuations here? I mean, in the US, there's a lot of bubble talk because there's a lot of unicorns.
Yeah.
Is that the same here?
I think on a relative basis, it's smaller. Everything is slightly smaller. So we have fewer tech companies, we have fewer founders, we have fewer VCs, we have a little bit less capital, even though I've talked about how much it's increased here. And similarly, on the listing side, we have fewer than we do in the US as well. And then on the valuation side, but this is what I think has helped both Sophos and WorldPay when they went public, you didn't have this really inflated valuation before they went public that you might have had in the States because of how ambitious or aggressive, and optimistic everyone is in the States. So I think everybody here is really bullish and it's really positive, and you can tell from all the people here at Disrupt like how thriving this sector is right now in London. It's not quite as frothy, I guess, or as over the top as I think what we've seen in the States, but I'm also hearing in the States that it's actually coming down a little bit more. It's not quite the same as it was over the summer. I'm hearing that from founders who are fundraising. And what's interesting is we just had a conversation, in our partner meeting yesterday. Not sure that we're going to see the same impact here because we never actually went to quite the peak that everybody did in the States.
All right, so maybe they keep their expectations in check here in London. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And you're going to be on stage judging Battlefield later. Another exciting day for Disrupt here in London. Thank you.
Thank you.